What is up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Off Market Operator. This one live from beautiful Belize. That is a country. I almost said it was a city in a country. Today, as always, we're going to part one to part two. Part one, I got my man James Dainard on here, a longtime buddy and mentor. Has been everywhere you can go in the real estate game, done every kind of deal you can do. So I'm super excited for both parts of these. Part two, again, like we always do, we're talking about how he acquires his deals, what deals he focuses on, and what he does with those in the back end. The ones he holds, the one he flips, the ones he wholesales. All of that's going to be on part two. For part one, I'm going to have him talk about how he's gotten to where he's at in terms of going from Red Robin, getting all of his income from tips to now doing over 3,000 flips. So James, I'll let you kind of do a quick intro, who you are, how you got here sitting next to me in Belize, and a little bit about your journey.
You nailed the trade line, or my fancy tips line. Thanks for having me on. So quick background of how I got started was I started like everybody with not a whole lot. I was a senior in college and I started door knocking and doing off-market real estate. And so it started with the concept of, the only reason I even got in the business was just to learn sales. And I figured the best way to do that was to go bang on doors all day long, because that is a very miserable job half the time. You know, people are yelling at you, they're screaming at you. And it all started with the concept of real estate and training myself, and then wanting to grow wealth after I had been doing it for a while. And it started with the wholesaling, because we have done a lot of different platforms over the last we've been doing this now 18 years. And we do fix and flip, we develop, and we keep a lot of units in Seattle, but it came with that core principle of finding a good deal first. So that was the priority. Learn how to find a good deal, underwrite the good deal, and then look at that purchasing or dispoing it off.
Take us back to, you're at Red Robin, you hear about real estate. What's your first deal? What was the first deal that really changed switched your mindset from, oh, I can really do this thing, and this is how I make all of my income, and sent you down that rabbit hole of, real estate becoming your thing? What was that first deal that really shook you and your kind of ideology around money?
Well, the funny thing is, I actually got sued on my first deal. It was because I just didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. But really what I saw, like being in the culture of a wholesale business in an investment company, that's where I actually got hooked. It wasn't the experience, because for that first 12 months, I really didn't make any money. There was no real training out there. There wasn't YouTube. There wasn't Instagram. There wasn't all these things that can train you now. It was like, I got to Google this, read up on this.
No softwares. There's no PropStream back in that day.
Oh, we had Google Streets and Trips, and that was like the only piece of software we used. Route our leads. And I had to learn that too, because I remember when I first started knocking doors, they gave me a stack of leads, and I'd be like, wow, I just drove 2 hours in between houses. I didn't even really realize to optimize my driving schedule. It was like I just did it in the order they gave them to me.
Turned out like papers. They gave you like lead sheets on paper?
Oh, all of our stuff was handwriting down, like left hanger, talk to owner. And then we'd come back from door knocking all day, go in our system, update it all. And because it took so long, we used to print out a stack, and we would just recycle the stack around all the teams with our notes on it for the whole week, and then we put it all in at the very end. I'm starting to date myself pretty good right now.
This is back in the 70s?
This is back in, yeah. I feel like the guy, because I remember when I first started real estate, the brokers were always like, nowadays, what we had to do to sell a house, we had to get this book out, we go to these meetings. I was like, oh man, you guys are old. Now my stories are those stories. But where I got hooked on real estate was, I had bought and sold a piece of property when I was 17 years old. It was a piece of land that I bought, and I made like $4,000. And that was a huge amount of money for me. And so the concept was always like, oh, you can produce income. And then as I was in the environment, I learned more about the actual long-term goal and passive and building wealth, not money. Because I took the job to get money with sales objections, sales training, learning how to sell. After a year, I had done one deal, had not made a whole lot of money, but I saw the vision, and which was building wealth, building passive income, and paying us down the road, and doing more than just racking a check to check. Yep. And that's really when I got hooked, was seeing those people do it, and also do it pretty easily, because they were in the method of doing it, in the mode, and that's what hooked me.
Question for you, starting out, we all get into real estate, whatever industry you want to get into, and we have this, our first goal is, okay, I'm gonna make 10 grand a month. Next goal is I'm gonna save up 100 grand, whatever that is. When you were getting started door knocking, doing real estate deals, what was a number to you where you're like, I'm rich if I make X amount of dollars per month, do X amount of real estate deals? Like, can you recall back the beginning what that number was for you when you were door knocking out there in the field?
Completely. And it's funny, is I had a conversation with a buddy of mine like 6 months ago, and he's not even a real estate sales guy, but he started selling elevators right out of school. And then we were talking about, because I did elevator internship too in college, and he's like, do you remember when you got out of school, the goal was, like, for me, it was to make $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And if someone gave me an opportunity that goes, you will make $100,000 a year for the rest of your life if you sign this contract, I would have probably signed it. I'd be like, I'm rich. I'm making $100,000 a year for the rest of my life. I'm golden. Mm-hmm. But then when I really started seeing what you could do in real estate, I was like, oh, $100,000 a year is not, that's an expectation, yep. Right? I mean, now I'm trying to make $100,000 a month passively. That's my goal. Yep. Like, if I get that number, I'm not going to be at my office till midnight anymore. And so it was always to get to that number. And then I blew through that number in 3 months once I started taking it seriously. Year 2, I made $85,000 on one deal. Yep. And I was like, forget the $100,000.
And the key word there used is taking it seriously. A lot of people watching this, we get into real estate and we do spend 2 hours, 3 hours cold calling. You guys heard his story. We have so many softwares and tools. You guys now can get on a dialer and make 300 dials in an hour while you're eating Cheetos on the side. It's not hard to get people on the phone now. So when you talk about taking it seriously, to the people that are watching this and are just getting into real estate, what does taking it seriously mean to James? Like, when you're hiring a sales guy now, when you're teaching, you say, I need you to take this business seriously. Is that 2 hours of cold calling a day? Am I door knocking 5 houses? What does taking it seriously mean?
You know what it always comes down to me is initiative. Mm-hmm. You know, we all have systems that we know work, right? We have at Heat and Dainard Real Estate, we have 10 acquisition in dispo guys, off-market guys, and they all do their job, right? But they've done through the training, they've gotten past the corner, because you gotta get past that corner, right? Like, it's like you're grinding out, and once you get around that corner, you're going, okay, now I know how to do this. Mm-hmm. But for me, what I had to do, and it was about taking initiative, I went to work for an investment company where there was no sales trainer. Mm-hmm. There was no sales book. There was nothing out there, and it was, we're giving you an opportunity, figure it out. And for me, I struck out for 6 months straight because I didn't take the initiative. I thought I was doing the hard work. I was just doing the process, though. I was going and banging on the door, talking to people, getting yelled at and getting kicked off their porch. And then for me, I had to take initiative and go writing down every objection, every nasty thing that was said to me. How do I get them to turn around at that point? And then I had to really educate myself on what real estate actually is. The biggest mistake I see with salespeople is they go for the sale rather than what are they doing. This is a career for me at that point. Mm-hmm. I need to know, the more information I know about my career, the more I can execute, I can build systems, I can create good game plans that will turn into revenue. And so I spent hours reading on foreclosures, loan modifications, what a HUD was, reading HUDs to figure out so I could explain it to people, what a loan doc was, what any kind of objection I would have, I would go back after I get done knocking doors and I would read for an hour or two. And it wasn't self-help books. I wasn't going to self-help my way into doing more deals. I had to get educated on what I was doing. And so taking that initiative changed everything. And I went from doing like 1 deal a month, maybe, to we were averaging 7 to 8 a month. And it was in a short amount of time, and it was like the lights got turned on once I educated myself.
And that's what I see a lot. Like, I think so many of us with social media, you see this guy in a Ferrari, this guy in a private jet, this guy in a Bentley. They're 10, 20 years in their career. A lot of people that we coach too, that get into real estate, they think being a real estate investor, a wholesaler, a flipper, a developer means for the first 2 years that you're working 2 days, on the weekends you're skiing, you're taking weeks off here and there, and they don't realize the level. Most people that you see have sacrificed a scale that most can't comprehend. So thanks for sharing that. Before we move on, I want to touch base on, it's my belief that every entrepreneur has some sort of gut punch early on in their career that really makes them ask themselves, do I really want this? Do I really want to be an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. Do I want to figure this thing out? Or am I going to go get a job and kind of, am I a half-assed entrepreneur, or am I going to figure this thing out? What was that gut punch for you where you were getting into your career 3, 4, 5 years in, you felt like you had some momentum, had some traction, you had a feel for it, that stopped you in your tracks, personally, professionally, or both, whatever you want to share, that was like, okay, do I really want to do this, and what does that look like?
Oh yeah, I've had numerous times where that's came up, and and sometimes too, like we have multiple different real estate businesses, we make the call to shut it down. Yeah. And but the one that sticks out the most, well, there's two. One is the first door I ever knocked on, and I got screamed at. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me, but I stuck in there. But the biggest thing was it was 2008. We became very good at wholesaling. We were doing like 30 deals a month at that point, 20, 30 deals a month. We were on fire. And I actually thought I was invincible. We were like the #1 deal guys in the state. 2008 hit, and we got flatlined. I lost over $1 million in net worth and cash in like a 5-month period. And then that was that gut check. And then trying to rebound was even harder. We were trying to like not drown, and nothing was going on in real estate. It was flatline. There was nobody at the auctions. No one was buying things. I could have a house for $1 and try to sell it to you, and people would be like, get that away from me. No one wanted real estate, had leprosy. And I started looking at other jobs, but I had just invested all my cash in this business, started it with my partner. We had 8 sales guys, and I was like, I just got to hang in there. And we went straight door to door. Like when we would get a deal, I would go knock on every neighbor's door to try to sell it, to get them to buy a rental property. And we just had to grind it out. And it was about getting educated, hanging in there. But the biggest thing that happened is the playing field got cleared out, and we could run the field and get after things and just hang in there and really know, reading about more real estate, knowing that there's cycles, right? The cycles are when the market gets cleaned out. That's where you can execute. And so you got to hang in there through the cycles, and then you have to pivot how you're doing things. We started doing things completely different in 2008 and 9 than we were doing from 2005 to 2008. And if we didn't make that pivot, we would have sunk with everybody else. And so it was about adapting your real estate experience, getting involved, and making the right adjustments, and then just hanging in there and grinding it out, knowing that there's another, like we weren't going to make money for 12 months, but there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
And we're going to go into all of those pivots and tactical things he did in part 2. But if there's one piece of advice, one thing you could go back to, what, 25 when that happened, 26?
Yes, 26.
And you could whisper in 25-year-old Jimmy's ear and give him one piece of advice when he was going through that or at that period of his life. What would that one piece of advice be?
First thing is look at outside factors besides real estate. Educate. If you're in real estate investing, that means you're in investments. Investments are global. Like, everything that happens in every market affects what we're doing today. And if I would have been looking at that more, I could have prepped myself a lot more and at least started with something rather than nothing. And so educate yourself, and don't just get narrowed of you do real estate. You're doing investing. Investing's a broad platform. You got to be familiar with what's going on with banks, rates, terms, what government's doing. That will tell you how to buy and pivot your business.
Perfect. And before we wrap up and move into the fun part 2, James, what is your definition of success? What is, if you had to write that line on paper, and what's James's definition of success? Not just in your industry, but business-wise. If you had to tell, 25, 26-year-old, like you're telling me right now, what your definition of success would be, and you had to tell your team what your definition of success would be, what would be that slogan? Not slogan, but that one.
Is one line?
Yeah. It could be 2 sentences.
I'm a drawn-out person.
What's your definition of success?
I think it's just freedom. It's one word. The freedom to do whatever you want, when you want, that gets you everything, right? It's, whether you want to hang out with your kids more, hang out with your family more, or you want to be more successful. Today, I have the choice to do what I want. Now, the problem is I still like to work too much, and so I still work my butt off, but it's the fact that I'm able to do that, bring in people when I want to work less, grind harder when I want to work more. That is my definition. Now that changes as you grow. My definition at 25 would have been a lot different. At 30 would have been a lot different. At 35 would have been a lot different. Now I'm almost 45. But it's, I would say that is my biggest thing right now.
Love it. Last one more question I'm going to add on top of that. What I always do, I like to ask this question.
The bonus question.
This is the bonus question. What does retirement mean to you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as what we call an off-market operator? You're in real estate. You've built a real estate company. Is there going to be a day when you say, like, what is your retire in your head right now, sitting here almost 40, almost 40, and what's your
I'll turn 40 soon. Trust me.
What's your what's your picture of retirement? Are you still working? Are you still going in an office? Give you an example. Like my father-in-law, he was a business guy for a long time, and he still wakes up every day, goes in the office till 2 or 3 p.m. and he seems like he's 40 years old. 35 years old.
I don't think I'm a person that will ever retire. I like to work. I work differently. For me, as successes came through and we're getting to this, I'm rounding the corner or something, I'd rather work more with giving back rather than chilling. It's not going to be defined by going into an office. It's about having impact on people. And if you can impact the most amount of people, that is successful retirement for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to part 1 with Mr. James Dainard. You can check him out at JDaneFlips. He's on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all over the place. Now we're going to move into part 2, which is going to be a separate episode that releases later this week. So stay tuned for that here on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for coming on, James.
Well,